Everyone, here for the DPW committee meeting for road recon. I'm joined by Councilor Hogan, Councilor Caldwell, Councilor Paniagua, President Hudson, Councilor Schultz, Jeremy, and also Corey, and that's a Deputy Commissioner, and also, it's good to see you too. Take us away.
And don't forget future president sitting next to me.
Yeah, future president here is sitting next to me. Oh, Councilor Monto as well.
She's sitting next to me. Thank you.
How the roads are selected, right?
She said, give her her paper. She can write notes.
You start.
Let's go.
You take it away.
I'm good. Okay. All right, so road reconstruction. So as you know, this year we selected a bunch of roads that we intend Rosselli, our contractor, to do, as well as some roads for our internal workforce. I remember we had a committee meeting about that, so I think we're all versed on that one. Our goal here at DPW is to do more road reconstruction work as much as we can, as possible. That was the goal from 2018 when I first got in here to now, and I think we have proven that over the years we've been steadily increasing our road reconstruction work over the years. The selection of roads also been tighter this year. Over the years, we were based on, when I first got here, it was more of, hey, can you do this road, or hey, can you do that road, or now we got a selection of road ratings that we go by right now, doing the worst ones first, and then try to get around the city. And as you know, there's a bunch of them. And it's going to take us, I think an article said 108 years before we can actually pave all the roads that we could possibly pave. So, so that's number one. There's no negative impact having Rosselli do roads, as we pointed out at the last committee meeting. Our guys are still going to be able to do 20, 30 plus roads as they see fit.
Commissioner, I just want to ask you a question, right? I'm going to interrupt you.
No, that's all right.
So you're saying Rosselli is going to do some of them. Is J.J. Lane's doing some of our roads as well?
I believe, not DPW, that's engineering.
That's engineering?
Yeah, I believe so.
But they're still part of these road recons.
So J.J. Lane is a contractor that, though, that engineering is using for Dig Once projects, Mary? Is it West Genesee Street? So, I mean, we consider the TIP projects that are overseen by engineering, part of our overall effort to improve roads, but that's separate than the road recon projects that DPW oversees. So J.J. Lane is engineering's contractor, but it's not somebody who's paving roads for DPW.
Get a handle on what we have out here. So, okay, J.J. Lane is doing it through engineering. Rosselli is going through DPW. So who else do we have on these sites? No one else?
In terms of paving, milling and paving, I think that's, Mary, are there other contractors that you're working with for engineering?
Good afternoon, Mary Robison, City Engineer. I think the East Calvin Street project from Salina to Jamesville, I believe the contractor is Economy Paving.
Okay, so that's another one.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's mainly, for engineering this year is mainly J.J. Lane and Economy Paving doing milling and paving.
J.J. Lane and Economy. And then when we go to DPW, we're doing in-house, correct? We're doing our workers, and Rosselli.
Yes.
So Ballard is no longer.
Ballard never did reconstruction for us. They just did corners and curbs, and they still are a major player in our contracting out the curb cuts. Yep.
Okay, so Ballard is gonna, because I was looking at the different amounts here, so where's Ballard written into the ADAs? Because my thing is, and I'm sure you're the experts, not me, but all of these, are we going to actually make it to all of these streets and ADA corners this year?
We got commitments, yes, to make it all through the entire reconstruction list. Yes.
So this might be for you, Corey. So how much money how much state money do we have that we have to spend on road recon?
That's a good question. I know that what we plan to spend on just road reconstruction is about $8.3 million. And so, yeah, and that not including the equipment purchases. Yeah, so some of the money that we have from the state with CHIPS we're using to purchase equipment, but in terms of what we plan on using from the state funding to dedicate to paving, it's about $8.3 million.
That's use it or lose it, right?
I mean, is there historically CHIPS has rolled over, but I think we're just increasingly concerned, particularly, given that economic conditions, the way that they're looking, that we really want to spend this money so that if the state decides that, as part of their belt tightening, they're going to take back money that's not spent, or they're not going to renew programs that maybe have been in place historically, that we make sure we spend the money while we have it. And touring routes money, which is part of our paving contract too, which is a new funding source for New York. We're not sure, that was only introduced, I think, last year. And so I think we want to be able to demonstrate to the state, if you give us more money, we will spend it. So, and we will improve the condition of the road. So, keep giving us some funding and we'll put it into the roads.
Piggyback on top of Monto's. So how was ARPA? There's ARPA money in this as well?
There's no ARPA money in our road recon because there doesn't really need to be because of the amount of state funding that we have, and we get reimbursed for the CHIPS money, which is in part why the ADA corners are so important, because in order to get reimbursed, we need to demonstrate that when we paved a road, when we reconstructed the road, we made ADA corners at each intersection.
Totally reimbursable?
Mm-hmm.
Is that why we never did it in-house? Or we just never did it in-house because?
Since I've been here, 2018, we always contract out.
Okay.
And I think previous to that, it's been the same. We never done it.
So strategically, having Rosselli do the roads and at the same time doing the ADA corners makes sense.
Only the corners where they're paving. And Ballard's going to do our in-house corners and ADA and curbing.
Have they started those nettings on the streets? Are those the ADA corners that's been started?
Mary, the ADA corners that are being worked on right around City Hall, that's engineering for for part of the downtown paving?
Well, the work that's going on right outside City Hall, I believe, is our DPW trades crews, but the corners that you see torn up downtown, like on Clinton.
And behind us, yeah.
Yes, that's as a result of our downtown paving project. Some of the work that was done is cracked, so we have them come back and fix those corners that are cracked.
So everything just works hand in hand, though, right?
And that's Barrett paving.
That's Barrett, who?
Barrett.
Barrett, okay.
I have a rabbit hole. I might have the wrong Driscoll in front of me, but so with the idea of the community grid, how much federal money, do we know what the federal money looks like to do road recon on the streets off of that grid?
So I would call on another Driscoll to answer this, but I do know that Driscoll, along with the administration, is working with DOT to provide to them, what we think our infrastructure needs are going to be, once, whether it's paving, whether it's water infrastructure that we think is going to be disrupted, whether it's sewer infrastructure. So I know the administration has presented that information to DOT, and that's an ongoing conversation about, hear what we think the impacts are going to be.
Because I was worried about the cyclical reconstruct something and then they come in and rip off what we just did.
And that's in part why, and Commissioner Robinson can speak to this also, that's in part why some of the projects like Almond Street, we knew coming in that back in 2018 that Almond Street needed to be paved, and we held off paving that because we were under the impression that 81 was going to start any year. And then once the timeline kind of continued and we saw the condition of Almond Street, we ended up paving a portion of Almond Street because we just couldn't wait for the 81. But we are trying to hold back to the degree that we can roads that we know, the state's going to come through and reconstruct as part of 81.
Eventually that nonsense lawsuit will end.
So what prompted the county to do Harrison?
I do not know. Yes, I'm not sure. I mean, which portion of, I mean, we've paved Harrison coming off of Ostrom, but you're talking going through downtown?
Through downtown.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Through and did that, and I'm just curious to what prompted the county
Yeah.
to really do that road.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I know we did Harrison coming off of Ostrom.
What's the city's process for assessing curbs and replacing curbs?
So, we have our sidewalk inspector, Chris Ettinger, who goes out, takes the recon list and goes out and walk those streets, and we will update curbs as needed.
So that's my question. What is the assessment criteria? How do you determine?
Crumbled, I mean, you can, that old, was it Red Medina? Curbing, if it's crumbled to the point where it's going to be a safety hazard, then we will go and fix it. I know we have a program, what is it, accessible, I want to get this right. I want to get this right before I give you the wrong information. Accessible sidewalk program that allows the city to perform sidewalk work and requests of the property owner with the assessed cost being added to the property tax bill. So those
Fix the curb?
curbing wise, we never had that in requests. So no one could actually call us and say, hey, can you go do this curb without getting the entire block and you guys got to foot the bill. So it's always been,
But with road recon, you install new curbs.
yes. So you were just asking about curbing, though.
I was, so that's
why I was trying to.
understand. And sometimes
yeah.
you do road recon and you don't do the curb.
Right. So, I mean, as Commissioner Robinson's mentioning, it's the condition of the curb, if it's crumbling, and also if it's causing issues with drainage, since that's generally the purpose of curbing, if it's causing a drainage issue, and also if it's not compliant with what zoning has determined is the appropriate opening for a driveway. So if somebody has a drop curb that is the entire length of their driveway or the entire length of their property, because at some point that work was done, we want to correct that. And while we're there in the neighborhood, make those corrections so that to the degree that it's possible, we have some uniformity and that the driveway openings are consistent with the zoning ordinance. So I would say it's the condition, whether there's a safety or drainage issue, and to make sure that it's compliant with the zoning ordinance.
That gives me angst.
I know.
Every time we talk about drop curves.
But 415 South Wilbur is alive and well and thriving as a business, and
nothing drives people more crazier than their driveways being taken away, narrowed or whatever. I'm a big believer, like the DPW and the city should be like, doctors, first do no harm. Driveway's been there, leave it there.
I would say it's worse to be hit by a car, and sometimes those drop curbs create hazardous conditions for pedestrians, and
good comeback right there. Like, really,
I'm saying,
boy, you pulled that one out from left field. I much prefer one of my kids.
No, I'm just saying, South Wilbur was one that where there was a lot of,
before I got on the council.
There was a lot of folks upset about the impact that the curb installation that we did on South Wilbur was going to have, but when I've driven by the businesses along South Wilbur, everything seems to be operating fine, and it's a safer condition
They arrested that one guy and put him away.
Yeah, but in terms of the business itself and the conditions, it's safer for pedestrians. There's one place to, instead of the entire length of the property being so you can pull in and out wherever you want, there's a dedicated place to pull in and out so pedestrians can anticipate where they might come across a vehicle. So, it is also, there are some safety issues related to having curb openings that are larger than what is in this.
They've been there for 65 years.
Well, and we encourage property owners to reach out to zoning to say, if you would like to make, right now, zoning doesn't have anything in their records to indicate that this curb opening is compliant. If you'd like to reach out to zoning, and some have gotten waivers and, go through the process to make that a permanent part of the property.
A citizen would have to have his head examined before he go before zoning. zoning.
Well, that's all going to change, right?
Yeah, well, let's see.
Corey, I gotta say something because you're making me laugh over here. I said you must have went in the mirror and was like, okay, when they say this, I'm like, you was in the mirror. I have a cousin that says, yeah, practice what you say.
No, I look in the mirror and say, stop talking and stop. I think that would probably do me more good is to just stop talking.
She was ready for this one today.
Well, she's heard this from me before. Yeah, many times.
So I got a question pertaining to the purchase of equipment and vehicles. I don't have the paper in front of me with the list of equipment, but what's being purchased there?
I already do got the list.
It's my voice, man.
Oh, look at
Not
you.
doing a radio voice.
Very white radio hour.
All right.
Trucks with plows.
That's from our era. A lot of people don't know what that is.
Yeah, so there's the truck with the plows on number 2. Is that, what's the purpose of that?
What?
Dual
Trucks with
purpose.
plows.
Dual purpose.
He heard the question.
Chris DeVesti, Director. The ones that I have in
Yeah.
the plan, that's just because it's a 2-year lead time. It's just trying to
But what do we
update.
What are we going to do with the trucks?
do with the trucks?
There's dual purposes.
Oh, yeah, in the summer we use them to haul the millings, we use them to haul the brush, and in the winter we plow with them. Oh, yeah, they're dual.
Oh, so they come as a package?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The same truck, and it does haul the millings, the asphalt, and in the winter we fill it with salt.
Okay.
Yeah, they work year round.
Thank you. I have a question. It's not even about recon. It has nothing to do. It's just about. I know the weather is. We're gonna have like this wonderful, beautiful weather. The sun is gonna shine. Like everything's gonna be beautiful here. So the trash. Do we have a plan? I remember we mentioned one time that about the dumps, like putting like community dumps, like a dumpster in a neighborhood where we can get like people to just like throw away stuff instead of just leaving it somewhere. Are we still thinking about that process?
I wasn't prepared for that one.
I know. I just thought about it. I just thought about it while I had you guys here. You guys.
I'll
so great.
defer to my first deputy.
Okay.
And
Or we need to do a mirror for that.
Yeah, she's like, uh-oh.
So are we talking about, sorry, Ann Fordock, First Deputy Commissioner, are we talking about specifically illegal dumping or are we talking about litter?
I guess they're both.
So illegal dumping, I'm not aware of this plan.
Yeah.
And I think it would just be flagrantly abused by contractors. But litter, Jeremy's been having Santa go out on weekends and do overtime picking up litter. But this weekend, get out there, sign up for the Earth Day cleanup. There are hundreds and hundreds of groups already signed up this weekend. It's going to be great weather. I think we're going to have record turnout.
Oh my goodness, you
so
sound so
I
phenomenal.
think after this weekend, for a few days, things are going to look really good.
So I was really referring to, and I agree, I believe that, but I was referring to like people have stuff in their houses, right? And they're going to start dumping it, and we're going to start seeing it outside.
I mean, we have a
So
great
we talked about getting some bin. Remember, like
So those are not permanent, just for this period of time. Is that what you're saying?
Not permanent, just for a period
a
of time.
dumpster, like a neighborhood dumpster. We talked about like going in a neighborhood that we know is like a lot of concentrated trash. To say, okay, we have this big dumpster, dumped it. Remember we talked about it.
So, I mean, I think Ann is, I mean, we, right now people can set things out to the curbs and we will, and they do, and, and we will pick it up. Illegal dumping is an issue and, we work with DPW, what are you laughing? DPW works with SPD to try and find out who's doing that. We have been successful in finding some businesses, particularly in the Kirk Park Drive area, businesses that we've been able to track them down to that they've been illegally dumping. But I think Ann's point is a good one, that if we are to set up a dumpster in a neighborhood, that there is the concern that folks from outside of the neighborhood, once they learn of it, might, even if it's there for only a short period of time, that we might get contractors and other folks abusing it. So I think we'd, but to your point, Counselor, this is illegal, trying to discourage illegal dumping, trying to look at the way we do bulk setouts is going to be part of the changes that we're going to bring before the council to some alterations and in conversation with the council that we'd like to make to the solid waste ordinance as we roll out the CARTS program and see, do the rules that we have on the books now help to curb illegal dumping? Does it actually promote illegal dumping? And work with the council to see if there's a happy balance we can strike there.
So with that saying, two-part question. One is, how much trash can people put out right now?
So right now, your regular household trash is 3 30-gallon bags or cans is your regular amount. You can set out a bulk amount, which you call City Line and get all the rules from them. It is up to 2 cubic yards. So if you have that couch, you're putting out that couch and your 3 trash bags. And you just call City Line and we pick it up. So and also there's C&D pickup. So special C&D pickup.
Construction and debris.
Sorry.
C&D is construction and debris.
So if you did home repairs at your house, if you use a contractor, that contractor must take the material with them. So they do not get a part of this plan. But if you did some home repairs, you can call City Line. Make sure that you tell them you're setting out in May. They're going to tell you your dates. Also 2 cubic yards. So spring is the time, which is why we have that May date. But pretty much if they call City Line, there's a couple different ways that they can, be taken care of by this. So we actually provide them a pretty great service, which always leads me to believe that a lot of this legal dumping might be coming from elsewhere or from private, businesses.
I agree. So my last comment for this is one of the things that, if you guys don't know, I started an initiative, which really wasn't an initiative that I started, I just reenacted, called, Let Me Be Great, Dunk Your Junk, was to push young people about throwing trash in away, right? I believe if people see it and we model it, then they might do it, right? Have we ever thought about bringing back, like, if you think of the Disney model, how they created, how they know that they have to have so many trash cans per so many feet. And in our city, we have this enormous many of corner stores in certain populations and neighborhoods that are like excessive. So have we ever thought about saying, okay, especially as we do the changeover with the trash cans and everything, that we put trash cans in neighborhoods, right? And then just have that as someone's job to like grab it, which will promote people when they are walking or coming out the store, maybe they'll throw it in the trash and not on the ground because there's a trash can around.
Yeah, I think it's I don't want to answer for the DPW team, but I think it's a great idea. And one of the things that we've been working with the Smart Cities folks, Jen Tift and her crew, is, they have sensors available that you can put in trash cans so that we know how full the trash cans are. Because right now we do have a crew out of street cleaning, right, that drives around downtown, emptying trash cans that they see. It would be great for them to know, what, the ones along Warren Street are, can wait because there's barely anything in them, but the ones that are around Clinton Square are, really full, and so that they can better use their resources. So I think technology like that will enable us to get more trash cans in neighborhoods, because we'll be able to make sure we're just picking up the ones that really have reached the threshold that needs to be picked up, rather than making that trip and finding out there's really not enough trash in there anyway.
Yeah, because we have zoning, the way our zoning is set up is we have neighborhoods that have business zoning, right? And there's no trash cans, but then downtown we have numerous of trash cans, right? So I think we have to figure out how to get some trash cans in the neighborhood.
Yes, and we, right now I think we take a largely reactive approach, where if an organization contacts us and says, hey, can we put a trash can up, we'll work with them. But I think you're right, having more of that proactive approach, especially along business corridors, and having that technology enabled so that we can make sure we're using our resources well, I think makes total sense.
Because to Councilor Caldwell's point, like on Sunday mornings downtown, there's trash in the trash cans all over. We had guys swinging by, and the parks too. The parks, sometimes they get, especially in this weather. I'll tell you, with this weather this weekend, we could have parks maybe swing by on Sunday morning.
Yeah, and so I think that sensor technology really gives us an opportunity to be much more robust in the community trash cans that we make available to folks.
I think it's worth pointing out there's well over 600 cans out there now. They are all over. There is a concentration downtown, but they are all over the place. I certainly agree with you about corner stores and businesses, which maybe that's a pet peeve of mine. I do feel like we should require them to have a trash can if they're selling goods where wrappers are going to be let loose the moment they hit the door.
Yeah, I think as they step and walk, or even where the schools are, right? So, kids are passing 2 and 3 stores before they get to the school. Now, how many trash cans are on the line? Because kids stop, they get a snack. And if there's nowhere to throw it, guess what they're going to do? They're going to drop it. And grown people, right? So I think if we promote a trash can, maybe people start saying, drop it. But if there is none, it's hard to promote something that ain't there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, right. That's all. Thank you.
Regarding slurry sale, I know you've heard this before, but what are we doing to prevent green space erosion?
So we do have funding available to us for green space.
Restoration?
Restoration. We know creep is a problem, especially with slurry sales, so we are going to address that this year.
Funding from who, how much, and where is it going?
I think it's about $200K, and that's in our capital improvement plan.
Okay. Is that our pilot that we talked about last year?
Yes.
Is it the streets we talked about last year?
So we are currently in the process of still helping
Yep.
those streets. So, I think
We have to evaluate that.
Right, so we should have.
Does it have to align with your slurry streets?
So I think the idea was to try and pick a street that we would do next year, so that way we can.
This year and then next year?
Right. So we would go to wherever we plan on going with slurry seal next year, restore the green space there, so that way we can, see how well the green space held up by the time we come back to slurry it. So over the year, see, if we move the street signs to make sure people know they're not supposed to park there, and learn some of the lessons that we learned on Sunnycrest, where that green space restoration was less than successful. Right.
So anything we can be doing to the streets that aren't getting this restoration, dig out, restoring the dirt, now when the slurry people come, like snapping a better line or telling them, don't go beyond this point?
Well, I think that's in the process right now that we try to, we still have a process that we have to walk the streets with slurry seal, and we walk with the, our, suit coat. So we walk with our contractor right now to make sure that we go over, the lines, filling the potholes, far as drainage situations. So we are doing that right now.
Do they put any kind of barrier down when they're doing that, or is it just all freehand? And
off the top of my head, I would think that they would have a type of barrier. Maybe someone smarter than me would know that, but
a barrier? What? When they slurry, do they put a barrier down? No, definitely not.
Okay.
They just do it with a truck, so that's why the creep happens. But I've just seen them do it, and I get worried when we talk about trying to, what Councilor Schultz said, trying to keep the creep from happening. We can't make stupid moves that we made 15 years ago and change streetscapes and cause drainage problems, because that's why you remember the Eastwood drainage problem with the flooding in everybody's basement. So we have to make sure we don't just put curbs on a street that has no drainage either.
Right. Well, this isn't talking about curbs, are we?
No,
but culverts, curbs, like anything that diverts the water to a new place, that water ends up in the basement.
No, this is actually talking about restoring dirt where there's asphalt now, digging up the asphalt so that the dirt can be the drainage system. Because without that, then we have a flooding and drainage issue.
Let's not do what we did on Sunnycrest.
We're going to try.
Yeah.
And far as litter, I agree with you on that. Like she said, we're trying to tackle that right now. We was on the south side. If you've seen us down on Saturday, Salina, we're going to do that. We're going to be on the west end this Saturday. We're going to try to hit every side of town and keep that up. And I'd rather do it with a bigger department. Environmental service, hands down, one of the best departments, I would say, in the whole state. But those guys do a great job over there, and they don't have manpower to tackle something like that as far as litter picking a whole side of town. So that's why we do it with Santa.
Yeah.
Just one thing. So, just for my sake of my brain, did Ballard originally do the curb cuts before Northern did? Or
Ballard was our contractor that did all of our curbing in 88 corners when we did it in-house.
Okay.
Last year we did it with them, with Rosselli. It just was a scheduling conflict, so we wanted to streamline the scheduling as far as if you're doing the road, you might as well just, while you're there, do the curb and corners as well. When you have two different type of contractors, it's kind of hard to get them all in the same, and then you got to get us as well involved. And scheduling, it just was a nightmare last year. So we're going to try it this year with just Rosselli doing the curbs and corners, and Ballard just doing curbs and corners for our internal work.
Okay.
Can I ask about Dig Once again? I know we touched on it with engineering's budget hearing the other day, but I just wondering if the enforcement is there for it. Like, in theory, it sounds like a great plan, but what are we actually doing to follow through with holding the people accountable?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things. I know during the budget hearing is referenced that Albany has some language on their books, and I'd be very interested to see that. I think the other thing that we need to do is, increase the disincentives for folks to wait until it's good for them to cut into the roads. And so, Mary and her team and Joe Barry and folks from DPW, we've been working on revising this road cut restoration, road cut ordinance, street cut ordinance, to try and make sure there's an actual penalty if you don't feel like doing the work on a street that we're working on this year because you'll just do it next year. There needs to be some sort of penalty for doing that, and so we've been working to try and make sure that we have more of an incentive for folks to cooperate with us to get that work done sooner rather than just wait and they'll just cut into our newly paved road next season. So, but I do think it's a great idea to have something more codified on the book. So I'm anxious to see what Albany has there.
And I want to. Oh, go ahead.
And we do have weekly recon meetings with all entities, National Grid.
Some of them don't show up.
Well, we got our pit bull on the job, Marty Davis, who's one of our deputy commissioners, and he gets after those guys very. He just nags them to come, and they're starting to show up now. I mean, National Grid.
The incentivize them. That would be, you don't show up for the meetings, then you don't qualify for the work.
Mm-hmm. That could be a good measure. But yeah, we had about 30 people at our last recon meeting. It was so many people that we got to move the actual meeting to a different space.
Okay.
So everybody's on board. National Grid gave us their roads that they're cutting in, so we don't have to pave it and then they dig it up. So I think we starting off on a good relationship this year. I think it's better than previous years that everyone's showing up. So I'm very excited about that.
So this is mine for you guys. I'm always talking about these dump sites, okay? You talked about Kirk Park, and then we know over there on the creek side, they dump over there religiously. I know that you had a movable camera at one point that you put on Creekside to catch them. Then we had that big mess over there behind Kirk Park that you guys had to take weeks to clean out. And I'm going to go back to this place called Life Storage. Yeah, I'm going to stop naming people too, but anyway. You know how when I kept talking about that couch that had been out there for 6 months? Well, they're at it again. So can you, as the commissioner of DPW, you have some kind of power, right, to be able to get their film or be able to look at what's on there? Because I believe, and it's just me, but it's all furniture. So those people are clearing out those storages and they're dumping it across the street in that open space.
So we work with SPD a lot. Andy Jakubowski from Environmental Service, he's great. He works with Carlos Romaine and his team over there, and they do, I don't want to give it away, but they do a lot of tag teaming where they can go after these guys and get the information. So sometimes we let it go on for a little while so we can catch them, but
we don't, because we have to think about what we're doing as a city. We're trying to build our city, and you got development going to happen on that one corner. Then you got the preserve down the street. Then you got the A-loft. So when those people are walking as they're visiting our city, I don't think they want to see all that trash tucked away in that hole.
I agree. So, like I said, we'll tackle what we can, and we'll get SPD involved to see if we can go after them.
That storage place, I mean, because they need to hold some accountability for that. Exactly. Because if your people are emptying out and they're trashing the city, then we need to make them, just like with the snow, when they piled up a mountain and you couldn't see. They need to be held accountable.
Noted. We'll take notes of that.
Drop the mic.
How the federal guidelines is connected to the 88 curve when you do road recon?
So when we do road recon, we have to update corners far as the state goes. So the state, it's a requirement for us to do those to get reimbursed, and it's 100% reimbursed. So when we do those 88 corners, when we do road reconstruction, they reimburse us, and that's a state rule, state law, and that's every municipality in the state. If you do a road, you have to update the corners by law.
So that $3 million goes back into our budget, right?
I wish it went back to me, but it doesn't go.
It goes back into the general
The
fund.
general fund, yeah.
The bond, it most likely, it most
Pays off the
likely
bond.
Can you guess at what percentage of those corners really don't need to be replaced, but you're required to in order to get the reimbursement for the whole project?
I think we outlined that in the.
Go ahead, Mary.
If the corner meets current ADA requirements, it doesn't have to be replaced.
Oh, good. Okay, I thought it was.
Yeah, we have to bring.
No.
If you're resurfacing a road or milling and paving a road, you have to bring all your corners on that road up to current ADA standards.
But if it matches, then you don't have to rip
And
it
you're
out
good,
and do
yeah.
it new. Oh, good. Okay.
Is there a limit per year to what the federal government would reimburse? Oh,
Say that again?
is there a limit of a money amount limit per year of what the federal government would reimburse for doing the road?
That's the CHIPS budget.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's to whatever it is we spend. So if the state gives us $4 million in CHIPS money, then that's the amount that they'll, then we spend that $4 million and
So
they
we determine that.
Right. And there are, with the flexibility of having the touring routes money and some of the other funding sources, we found that there are, historically the city has had to use that $4 million for CHIPS for paving, and every year that $4 million went for paving. But with touring routes and some of the other funding sources, we've been able to use the CHIPS funding for vehicle, equipment purchases, and there's a whole list of things that are eligible expenses for CHIPS reimbursement. And so, due to the state providing us that funding, which we very much appreciate, that gives us some of the flexibility so that we use that money to purchase vehicles, and then we get reimbursed for that money because it's a reimbursable expense.
Thank you.
And corners don't always mean curbs either, so people think that just because we update in a corner, we're going to do the curbs as well. So just note that.
Question for you, Commissioner. So you gave us a list of the curbs, right, the 88 corners?
Yes.
Okay, and I see some that says 0, so those are the ones you won't be touching, because
yeah.
those are already.
Yes. Compliant. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate all you do to make this a walkable, accessible city and safe city.
Phenomenal.
You did a great job.
Let's
and you're
go.
doing more roads than we've ever done before. It's a huge home run. I congratulate
I keep
both
saying
of you.
we did
Great working team.
15 when I got here in 2018, and now we're doing over 70 plus. I mean, you think about that.
It's really awesome.
All right, with that being said,
President stood up.
thank you all. This concludes the meeting.